So, Mike, you have the breaching accident. You're medically discharged from the Army. After your rehabilitation, what was that like for you? Was there like a now what moment?
Oh, it was difficult. It was real difficult. I mean, I was at the top of the food chain. I was in the arguably the best unit of its kind in the history of the world, and I did well. I mean, I didn't barely make it through. I did pretty good, and then in a millisecond, I was maimed and out of a job, and then I was thrust out. This was just before the September 11th. It was before the war kicked off, the year before the war kicked off, and so I came from an environment I had spent my whole life training in and for a whole group of people who I was accustomed to being around, personalities and mindsets and all that. And then I was out in the civilian world. There was no wounded warrior. There was no thank you for your service. None of that. I was just some guy who used to be in the army that had a busted up face. Uh, Nothing. And there was no fanfare to it. You go from being someone of note in an organization to complete anonymity, obscurity, really. And so it was difficult. I worked a couple different places. In a management role, I worked at Blade Tech and some other places. And then I started doing training on my own, started running training in the summer, in July of 2001. And then the war kicked off, obviously, September 11th. And I remember watching it, and it was actually I was worried because my brother actually works in New York City, and I didn't know, I wasn't sure if he was close to there. He actually was in a building right across the street, but he was fine. And then I remember thinking, damn, the Super Bowl's on, and I'm not on the Super Bowl team anymore, and it was difficult. So I kind of just muscled through it. There wasn't much I could do at the time. I remember saying, I'm going to find my way into the fight. I'm going to find my way into that war with a rifle in my hands, and the first step on the way there was I got a call from an old sergeant major from my unit saying, "Hey, we're standing up the air marshal program. Are you interested in being an instructor?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm interested." Went over there and helped stand up the air marshal program. Was one of the first instructors hired on as a contractor, and then took a full-time position in the Seattle field office. I left there in 2003 and went to Iraq doing PSD, also on a phone call from another friend of mine from my old organization. And then in '04, I went back again with Triple Canopy. I was a project manager there. And then in '05, I went back as a counter ID ground combat advisor with what would become the Asymmetric Warfare Group. So I got to find my way back into it and kind of make sure that I was the guy that I thought I was, which was important. And at that point, I learned a lot doing those different jobs, because there's some unique and peculiar things that you had to deal with in each one of those individual jobs that I did. And I took from them a lot, working in soft skin vehicles with captured weapons, doing PSD, and then working as an advisor, doing counter IED stuff, going into IED and mine-rich areas, seeing what was being taught and what was making it to the battlefield. And then when I left Iraq, I was in the Asymmetric Warfare Group as an instructor, and some people that most people would know, Pat McNamara and Jim Smith, people like that, and I all worked together running a rifle and pistol and tactics course for the 82nd before the surge. So I was still part of it, and I was able to use that recent experience that I had in '03, '04, and '05 in Iraq to help enlighten in some ways and train the young soldiers from the 82nd, the paratroopers that were headed over. It was rewarding. I had the opportunity to begin really giving back in a way that was meaningful. When I left the Asymmetric Warfare Group, I worked with Kyle Lamb at Viking Tactics to help set that up. I was at his retirement, and then I was his first senior instructor, and we worked a lot together. I got a lot from that. I learned a lot, and I believe I contributed a lot. And then I went out on my own in 2009, and that's where I've been ever since. So that's kind of that journey, but it's evolved. It's the journey declared itself along the way. I kind of had a rough azimuth. I was heading north by northwest, and that's just I just kept walking in that direction, and muddling through, and things would present themselves. Opportunities would be given, and things would come and go. And you can't chart your course as specifically as you'd like in life. And so what you do is just kind of in a certain way, you go with the flow. You're still heading in the same direction. You're not swimming upstream, but you're still going with the flow. You're going to eddy here and there, and you're going to try and manage it as best you can, but you can never really control it. And so that's really my path from blast injury, you're maimed and out of a job, to where I am today. is that I did the things that I love to do, and I put forth the effort that was really required to be good at them, and then I just kind of took it as it came. And the course corrections and recharting and all is just part of life.